Right now on News 10 ABC in the morning, communities devastated by Tropical Storm Irene 2 years ago today in our region, continuing their recovery and the rebuilding efforts. We'll take a closer look at the progress.
Plus, the owners of Hoffman's Playland in Latham announcing they plan to retire in a couple of years. What it means for the future of the amusement park.
I don't know if I thought of it in terms of historical importance, but I knew it was important.
And you will hear more from the man who was there for Martin Luther King Jr.'s historic speech 50 years ago as we remember the March on Washington.
You're watching News 10 ABC in the morning, and it starts right now.
Dedicated, determined, dependable. This is News 10 ABC in the morning.
Happy Wednesday, everyone. Hope you're having a good week. Good morning. I'm News 10's Christina Arangio.
Good morning. I'm Stephanie Grady. We'll have your top stories here in just a second. We've got to talk about that weather, though. Meteorologist Steve Teeling joining us right now, and it's still kind of the story of the morning, the fog that's out there.
F-O-G, fog is that three-letter word this morning that's causing some problems for some of us out there. Take a look and see what we got with our traffic camera. Look at that dense fog out there in the distance. 87, right around where everything, all the sevens come together. You can see it is foggy in some spots. You can run into it very quickly. You can break out of it very quickly. Where it is, though, it is dense. Some of the visibility down to a quarter of a mile or even less than that. We take a look at 90 westbound, or excuse me, eastbound, and speeds a little slower around the 87 interchange, and also a little bit slower as you reach 787 out towards I-90. All right, take a look and see what we've got going for you this morning. About 64. Some clouds, a little sun breaking through, areas of fog, winds are on the light side, very similar to what we saw yesterday. It is 67 right now here in Saratoga, 63 in Whitehall, North Adams mid-60s, and Gloversville right now low 60s. We'll be in the 80s later on today. 86, the fog will burn off probably about 9 o'clock or so this morning. More and more hazy sun into the afternoon and a few clouds out there, and we're going to see the chance of a pop-up thunderstorm, very isolated though at best. Tonight, still muggy, still warm with a low of 63 degrees. Winds will be on the light side. And I hate to say it, I think tonight into tomorrow morning the fog will redevelop. More on all of that in your 7-day coming up shortly. Christina.
All right, Steve, thanks so much. Well, we remember this well here at News 10. 2 years ago today, Tropical Storm Irene ravaged parts of New York and Vermont. There has been progress made in the rebuilding efforts since that day, but there's still a lot of work to be done. News 10's Nicole Alley joins us now with more on how people in Vermont are doing 2 years after this storm. Nicole.
Well, Christina, it is hard to believe that it has been 2 years since this. The images of Tropical Storm Irene so powerful, but if you're one of the millions of New Yorkers or Vermonters affected, it has been a long 2 years. There were 500 miles of state roads severely damaged or destroyed in Vermont alone. More than 100 bridges there were wiped out, and who can forget the video of cars being swept away by all that rushing water. Today, Governor Peter Shumlin will tour some of the hardest hit areas. He'll focus on Wilmington, Vermont. The tour will coincide with the release of the state's report on Irene recovery efforts, which looks at the damage, assesses how much has been accomplished, as well as acknowledges the work that still needs to be done. The governor says the big picture is good, but there are still plenty of people on the ground with damaged homes, still trying to relocate or rebuild, and businesses still trying to recover. And much of the governor's tour will focus on one particular business, Dot's Restaurant. It's been the symbol of both the destruction of Irene and the town of Wilmington's recovery. The restaurant is hoping to be reopened for the first time in 2 years in just a few weeks in time for leaf peeping season. Live in the studio, I'm Nicole Alley for News 10.
All right, Nicole, thanks so much. Well, Hoffman's Playland has been a staple of the capital region for years, but now the amusement park's owners say they are retiring in a couple of years. So where does that leave the park? Well, its future might lie with the Great Escape. News 10's Megan Farley has more on this.
David Hoffman said he first discussed this whole Six Flags option Tuesday morning with the Albany County executive. Now, Six Flags wrote us and said that they have the utmost respect for Hoffman's, and David Hoffman said that the meeting went really well. Hoffman's Playland in Latham. The smiles on the children's faces here are enough to show just how much this place means to the community, and the community wants it to stay. But who will be at its helm once the Hoffmans themselves retire?
They're great people.
They raised their family here, and, you know, it has to be their decision at the end of the day.
County Executive Dan McCoy went straight to the owners of Six Flags Great Escape, a perfect marriage, he says.
Saying, hey, imagine if they're together, you do a season pass, and, you know, that was the pitch we were giving to them. Imagine doing a season pass, and, you know, you get so many things at, you know, at Huffman's, and then you get a mission in a Six Flags.
Excited about it because I think they have the infrastructure and the expertise to run an operation like ours.
For people who come here to Hoffman's, it's all about bringing their kids on rides they loved as kids. After all, this carousel is one of the originals to back in 1952. Trisha Cupp and her two boys are regulars here. Her experiences date back to the early 80s.
I had kids. One of the first things when they were old enough as infants, I had to bring them here.
Whether Hoffman's will eventually be sold to Six Flags, those talks are still in the earliest of stages. But for the Hoffmans, the lifetime they've put into this place and the generations of people who now support them, they say is just simply overwhelming.
You know, we're just thrilled. We're thrilled that people want to preserve the park for future generations, and we're still making generations happy right now.
Now, again, these discussions with Six Flags are still exploratory, and Mr. Hoffman tells us his family still plans to run Hoffman's Playland through next season. In Latham, Megan Farley for News 10 in the morning.
This morning, the U.S. still contemplating a possible military strike against Syria after reports show strong indications the country used chemical weapons against its own people. And new information now that a UN envoy to Syria says evidence suggests some chemical substance was used. We do warn you there are some graphic pictures here. Estimates put the number killed in the hundreds now. That number includes women and children, and President Obama continues to speak with allied leaders about taking military action against that country. Reports say if the president greenlights a strike, it will be limited and won't happen before tomorrow. So, of course, stay tuned for the latest developments on this story throughout the day and on News 10, of course, both on the air and online.
We want to check in right now with meteorologist Steve Teeling for a preview of what's ahead in that storm tracker forecast. Steve.
All right, Steph, thank you so very much. You know, it's mild and muggy out there, but right here, those words, areas of fog, yeah, we're going to show that to you and how dense it is in some locations, so stick around for that. Christina.
Thank you so much, Steve. Still ahead, a preview of today's tribute to the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington, that historic speech. We'll have parts of it for you and a great interview coming out.